With the euphoria of the change in administration still in the air, hopes of the citizens are high on the ability of the new administration to deliver on its campaign promises, which formed the basis of their confidence during the past election. In Oyo State, the emergence of Governor Seyi Makinde brings in a new party in power. In the views of experts, the onset of the new administration is the right time to re-examine the changes required to ensure better delivery of good governance, and such expectations would form the bedrock of evaluation of the government after a period of time. These expectations will form the focus of Panorama today from Ibadan Network Center. I'm Kemi Akinwande. Thank you for joining us. Barely 36 hours after his inauguration for a second term of office, President Muhammadu Buhari has returned to the Grand Kaaba in the holy city Mecca. His mission not only to intercede for Nigeria, but also seek divine guidance in the execution of his mandate for a secured, peaceful, united and prosperous Nigeria. State House correspondent Adamu Sambo reports.
Although President Muhammadu Buhari is in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia for the summit of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation with the holy city of Mecca as the venue and the Grand Kaaba just nearby, maximum benefits of the visit must be derived for both personal and greater national interest. President Buhari is here to once again perform the Lesser Hajj, an act of great significance for the sake of Allah and therefore highly pleasing to him. Consequently, sins are not only forgiven here, but all prayer requests are considered granted. For the Nigerian leader, still basking in the euphoria of his inauguration for another term of office, it is one opportunity that cannot be misused. Therefore, apart from Tawaf, or circumambulation of Kaaba, the president, accompanied by, amongst others, the governors of Jigawa, Niger and Osun states, also performed Sa'i between the mountains of Safa and Marwa. He walked and indeed ran where necessary in compliance with the Islamic injunctions, during which intermittent prayers were offered to Allah for the nation and its present leadership.
Throughout the Lesser Hajj, President was busy praying for Nigeria bit by bit from each stage to another for Almighty Allah's intervention to intervene in our country and make it much, much easier for him to take the country to the next level.
So how significant is the President's prayer for Nigeria?
It's very important because of the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given him that responsibility. Because of that responsibility, when he prays, there is high probability that his prayer will be accepted. And among the prayers that are accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the prayer of a righteous and just leader.
This is the second time in less than 3 weeks President Muhammadu Buhari is performing the Lesser Hajj, but not the three governors on his entourage. So what have been their prayers to Allah at this point in time?
This prayer for peace for the entire country and prosperity. We are aware of the economic challenges, and we pray very hard for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help the country, bring in peace, bring prosperity, and eradicate poverty in the land.
I prayed for our President Muhammadu Buhari, for Allah to give him the strength to rule Nigeria properly in the right direction. I prayed for Nigeria as a whole, for peace, in view of the present security challenges facing us. And inshallah, we're very hopeful that Allah will answer our prayers. We'll continue to pray hard to have a peaceful environment, because without peace and security, virtually all other sectors of development will not function.
I congratulate Mr. President for taking it as a matter of duty to come and say Alhamdulillah to God after the swearing. My prayer is that by the grace of Almighty God, our president will do better than what he did the first term. Challenges are there in the country, particularly in the area of security, but Allah will see us through. We want peace in Nigeria. We want prosperity in Nigeria. And I believe with this, the start of this tenure, with God be on our side, the president will do very well.
The Lesser Hajj is the first major undertaking by President Muhammadu Buhari on the margins of the OIC summit in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. From Makkah, Sambo, NTA News.
The Council of Ministers of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, has met in Jeddah Kingdom ahead of the meeting of the Council of Heads of State and Governments. The Nigerian delegation was led by former Minister of Foreign Affairs, Jeffrey Oyama, and the Permanent Secretary in the Ministry, Ambassador Mustafa Sulaiman. They speak on the agenda of the summit and expectations.
And it's an organization that's dedicated to, it's a multilateral organization dedicated to promotion of development and peace globally around the world, and in particular in the member countries.
Now the expectation all the time is that such forum will address these global issues as they relate to member states and try to define a framework for addressing such issues for both member nations and and globally also.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has expressed gratitude to Nigerians for the trust reposed in the president and his team. The Vice President at the inauguration gala night held at the State House in Abuja reiterated the administration's commitment to good governance. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports.
It's really a moment of joy for Nigerians. 20 years down the line and the root of democracy is still growing on the Nigerian political soil. The re-election of President Muhammadu Buhari for another 4-year term and the celebration of another democratic dispensation takeoff are evidences of the people's acceptance of democratic rule in the country.
Many reasons to be happy and to celebrate our country. We passed through a successful general elections across the 36 states and the FCT that were relatively peaceful. We have a very peaceful inaugural ceremony. And all of those who thought Nigeria will face insurmountable challenges, I'm sure they are rethinking.
Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, all say thank you to Nigerians.
The beauty of democracy is the orderly and civilized process of transition. But perhaps more importantly is the sanctity of and respect for the will of the people and the choice of the people. On February 23rd, the Nigerian people freely made a choice to re-elect President Muhammadu Buhari for a second term in office. It was that choice that we celebrated with pomp and pageantry.
We commit ourselves to the development, peaceful coexistence, and unity in diversity.
And so the bid goes on in advancing the country. From the banquet hall of the State House, Jide Onifade, NTA News.
And back in Oyo State, Governor Seyi Makide's first day in office was heralded by an interreligious service organized by the state's workforce. Correspondent Ayomiko Ajibola reports that the governor urged workers on productivity to ensure better welfare packages.
Reacting to the alleged violence caused by members of the NURTW, Governor Seyi Makinde said his administration will not tolerate any form of lawlessness by any group or persons, assuring the citizens of the state that his administration is determined to protect them without fear or favor. The governor said he has called for an emergency security meeting on the new minimum wage. The governor says,
I believe Oyo State will be the first state to break ranks with this issue of national minimum wage. We will get our own minimum wage that will be over and above the federal minimum wage.
It is our responsibility to remain loyal and committed to the government of the day.
Earlier, in their different charge, Alhaji Bello Rufai and Bishop Ademola Moradeyo admonished the workers to always obey their leaders. The inter-religious service put together by the state civil and public servants featured praise worship and special prayer for the new governor, both in Christian and Islamic way. In Ibadan, Ayomiku Ajibola, NTA News.
After the May 29th inauguration, both at the federal and state levels, Nigerians have continued to express their views on the expectation from the new administration. Kayode Oladoshu spoke with some residents of Ibadan on their agenda for the new government.
With the inauguration over, Nigerians across various walks of life are already eager to know what the shape the governance will take. Expectations are high as Nigerians desire continuity in areas of strength and new policies that will improve on security, economy, and general well-being of the citizenry.
Check back on what his predecessors have done, where they have stopped, what they are thinking to do, but they are not capable of doing it. He should try to pick it up from there and take Oyo State to the next level.
Governments that can give the people better job opportunities, better life where young people like me would possibly finish school and get jobs.
In the past government, there was peace. So I want him to maintain it. He should maintain it.
Those things that he had already promised us, I'm expecting that from him. And I believe God will help him because he's a kind of truthful somebody.
Him to tackle the security headlong, the economy, streets, and of course, the infrastructure should be improved upon.
Based on various expectations, Nigerians look forward to a better structure in all sectors to ensure equal distribution of dividends of democracy in Ibadan. Kayode Oladoshu, NTA News.
And now with me in the studio is a political scientist from the University of Ibadan, Professor Remi Ayede. Professor, you're welcome on Panorama.
Thank you. Good morning, viewers.
Now we had the immediate past administration spending 8 unprecedented years in the history of Oyo State. Can you quickly appraise the immediate past administration?
Well, I think the administration did what they could. Like every other administration, they also have their weak points. In the area of infrastructure, I think the previous government was able to give Ibadan a facelift. You can see many of the roads in the city have been dualized, in the sense of being dualized, and that's a very key strong point for the administration. In areas like education and health, it left a lot to be desired. If you look at the educational sector, teacher salaries were not paid for several months, and you can imagine the implication of that on morale and performance in secondary school. And that is why if you look at their performance in external examination like WAEC and the NECO, the state didn't do quite well. The same thing in the health sector. And then, of course, in the area of security, he also did well. He was able to rein in the crisis that usually attend the National Union of Road Transport Workers Association management of the garages around Oyo State. So these are two strong areas where the previous government made major mark. And then I think health and education are also areas where they left a lot to be desired.
Okay, now that a new administration is on board, what would you want done differently?
Well, the administration has set its agenda, and certain steps has already been taken, so it's a welcome administration. But critically, he has committed to revamping and transforming the educational sector. We hope that will be done because expectation goes beyond merely abolishing the 3,000 naira fees that are paid by secondary school people. He has promised to cater for the interest and welfare of teachers. We hope that that will be done effectively, and then infrastructure within the school system. If you go to many secondary schools and even primary schools in Oyo State, you'll be embarrassed by the level of infrastructure that you find in those places. So we expect that there will be a great transformation, because he has promised that it will begin with 10% of the budget on education. We hope that he will really do that and keep to it. Then in the area of health, there's a lot to be done. There's the new health insurance scheme. It is not very clear how it is working. So we need that to be strengthened and then the coverage to be extended. And we hope that the health insurance agency will be effective, so that, as he has also said, there will be emphasis on private health care, primary health care. We hope that primary health care will be given a new lease of life, given the fact that the federal government itself has this fund, for primary health. We hope that the state will also connect with that fund and help citizens and residents.
Now, Governor Makinde promised to dedicate his entire salary to, enhance teachers' pension fund, going back to education now.
Yes.
How will that impact?
Well, I think that's merely symbolic. It's symbolic of his larger commitment to transforming the educational system. And I think that in terms of actual financial implication, I don't think it's going to be huge, but I think it's symbolic to demonstrate to the teachers, especially that they are on strike right now, that he has goodwill and that he's committed to resolving any dispute they have with the previous government. And I think it's a friendly move, it's a warm move, it's a welcome move. So I hope that we'll go beyond that into making concrete his commitment to teachers.
Now, what would you want him to do in the aspect of security to enhance security? Because we know the immediate past administration did a lot in that area, and it came in to address security because there were some skirmishes here and there immediately after the inauguration.
Yes, because at the tail end of the previous administration, you'll find that a lot of new development in terms of security were emerging. Take, for instance, the increasing number of what we call gangsters, these secret corps fighting in the streets and creating public disturbances. That's a kind of new development that the previous administration has not been able to tackle before it went away, because they were just beginning to spread. And then you also have this issue of kidnapping that has become rampant, that is spreading not just within the western region, but across the country. But it has become very rampant even in Oyo State. So we hope that certain steps are taken to ensure that they don't become a major issue. And if you know that he held a security meeting to deal with the emergency that occurred a few days ago, I think it will go beyond that, because we don't just want the achievement of the previous administration to be sustained. We are saying you must go beyond just security to create an orderly and peaceful environment in which business can thrive, creativity can flourish, people can go about their businesses, and so on and so forth. Okay,
from that background report, one of the respondents mentioned about creating employment, that youths would would graduate from the university and there'll be ready jobs. So what would you want this present administration to do to enhance that youths would get job readily once they leave the
in that
school?
regard, I don't think that you should take the line of the previous administration who think that the only way they can create jobs is through OES. But I think there must be a more strategic approach. One of it is that agriculture is the mainstay of the Oyo State economy. It's important that agriculture should not just be modernized, but moving goods from just a consumption crop, or what we call into much more processed food that can be sustained over time. For instance, there's problem of storage. You need to create storage facilities. Two, you need to connect them with industry so that the agricultural produce will not be sold just in the open market, but they can also be used, to produce other things. Some what we call value addition to those agricultural goods, so that when you have these industries using these agricultural products, there will be employment, and then of course there will also be things for export. And I think at his inauguration, he brought some investors from Botswana who were supposed to look at the area of maize production, and we think that moving all of this crop from mere primary produce into secondary commodities, that are not just, you don't just export those products outside, you also process them into diverse goods that can be used both locally and then, of course, in that process, you'll be able to create jobs. And I think also that there should be a major intervention because poverty is very high in the state. Many children can't go to school, not because education is not free, but because their parents need them, to either sell pure water or hawk around in order for them to be able to get at least a square meal a day. We're into a situation where social protection programs will also be implemented by the government to ensure that the educational policies of ensuring that the schools are open and occupied, that there are no children.
Yes, let me take you up on that quickly. The percentage of out-of-school children is very high in Oyo State.
Yes.
So how can that be coped?
That's precisely what I'm saying, that he needs to introduce all kinds of protection for these children. It can take the form of cash transfer, it can take the form of food programs, so that when children get to school, they are guaranteed that they can get something to eat, and children and parents do not have to worry too much whether their children staying in school will deprive them of some access to additional family income. And I think there are practical policy measures that can be taken to address that. You'll find such things have already been done in places like India and Brazil. I think you can take a lot of cue from that. Then, of course, he has also said that he's committed to pensioners, especially as demonstrated in the teachers' pension fund. I think that we need to broaden that concern to reach people who are both in the informal sector, who are also highly disadvantaged. Because if you look around your state, you find that because of the high level of poverty, you have these children out of school, you also have old people in the street begging. So all these are very concrete welfare issues that you will need to address.
So a word of advice to the people of Oyo State incorporating with this present administration.
I think it's important that for the citizens in Oyo State to cooperate with the government. In fact, there are policy measures that if the government take them alone, will not be implemented. So we need people also to participate, not just in decision making, but also in the implementation process, so that he must also reach out to them in terms of making certain roles that citizens are expected to play known to them, so they can also appreciate the reason why those policies are in place in order for such policies to be effective. And you also know that you can also carry out some of these policies without money. And to get money, of course, you need people to pay their taxes, especially if you say you are going to look creatively on the tax system, such that there will be no multiple taxation that would discourage investors, but also you want those who are supposed to be on the tax net to be willingly part of that.
Thank you very much, Professor Remi Ayede, for coming on Panorama. Panorama will be back shortly. Don't go away. Value reorientation towards entrenching a corrupt-free society has again been advocated by key players in the fight against corruption who gathered in Ibadan at an enlightenment program initiated by the National Orientation Agency, Oyo State, and the Presidential Advisory Committee Against Corruption. Rafia Animashaun Badmos tells us more.
Corruption being the product of faulty mindset of the people, value reorientation is advocated as crucial to waging anti-corruption war. Stakeholders at the meeting are of the opinion that our cherished values, integrity and honesty must be re-imbibed to assist the country get rid of corruption.
We need to change our attitude to be able to suit in managing our acquired resources.
We are speaking to the people, representatives of the people, on going back to our core values.
Political and constitutional corruption were highlighted as some types of corruption, hence the need for moral rebirth.
We have realized that the entire fight is taking place at the federal level. Not much is being done at the state and local government level.
The people themselves have to make up their mind to take ownership of the fight against corruption.
The event was tagged Value Reorientation and the Fight Against Corruption in Ibadan. Rofia Animashaun Badmos, NTA News.
The need to invest in the rail transport sector through public-private partnership to enhance speedy and all-round development in the country has been emphasized. This was the focus of discourse by experts at the Nigerian Institute of Social and Economic Research, NISA, in Ibadan. Correspondent Shola Wahid has the details.
Rail transport in Nigeria is described as a safe means of moving passengers and goods from one location to another. The rail sector has in recent times recorded improvement in service delivery, contributing significantly to the process of economic growth due to federal government's massive investment in the sector.
The reform blueprint is good. What we need to do is implement that reform and work towards achieving the targets that are set in the reform.
When you have the rails, every other mode will have to coordinate with the rails. Where the rail stops, that's where others take off. And you will see that the economy will start to grow.
The government says in the economic recovery and growth plan that it will focus on, developing transport infrastructure. And one of those critical ones to the growth of the Nigerian economy is the rail sector.
Participants described the seminar as timely and urged federal government to intensify efforts towards speedy completion of railway projects across the country. In Ibadan, Shola Wahid, NTA News.
And now talking sports, the Nigerian Flying Eagles waded into the knockout stage of the FIFA's Under-20 World Cup ongoing in Poland. For these and more on sports tidbits, Larry Belay is our guide.
It was an unconvincing display from the Flying Eagles as they secured the points needed to advance to the round of 16 in the ongoing FIFA Under-20 World Cup in Poland. After the regulation time of 90 minutes in their encounter with the Ukrainian team, the match ended in 1-1 draw. Paul Ibogun's charge finished third in Group D table behind Ukraine and United States, who hedged out Qatar by a lone goal. Moving on, the league management company's chairman, Shehu Diko, said the absence of required facilities had made broadcasting football matches live very expensive. He however promised that the football managing company is working on all possibilities. In Europe, Liverpool and Tottenham Hotspur will take the English derby to Madrid on Saturday, this time at UEFA Champions League final. Liverpool seems to be getting the nod of football fans to lift the trophy, but Tottenham are no pushover. For Liverpool, it's their 6th European title if they won. For Tottenham Hotspur, it's their first time around. From the Sport Desk, Larry Belay, NTA News.
And that's been Panorama on the network service of the NTA. Thank you for watching. From it, goodbye.